Your system has been invaded by evil forces and it's up to you to defend it. For the NES, blast through waves of enemies. Counterattacks from giant spiders.
The NES isn't supposed to look this good, and yet, here we are. 4 decades after its prime, developers are still wringing miracles out of Nintendo's humble 8-bit box, crafting games so sharp, fluid and detailed, you'll swear they're running on newer hardware. From cinematic shooters and pixel-perfect platformers to haunting open worlds and even online brawlers, these homebrews redefine what retro can mean. So plug in that controller and get ready. These are 16 graphically impressive NES games that look too real to believe. Micro mages. It's wild to think how some developers still squeeze pure magic out of silicon older than most of us. Take this one for example. A vertical climb through pixelated chaos that somehow feels smoother than half the stuff running on modern engines. Micro Mages by Morphcat Games pushes the NES so hard you can almost hear it gasp for breath. You start as a tiny wizard storming the demon fortress, a tower packed with booby traps, ghost-spawning enemies, and secrets that mock your curiosity. What I love here is how alive everything feels despite the 8-bit limit. The sprite work is razor-sharp. Gothic ruins, flickering torches, and enemies that move like they've got AI routines too advanced for 1989. Beneath the cute chibi look hides a ruthless platformer where timing wall jumps and managing magic shots can make or break your run. And that's before your friends join the madness. Up to 4 players share the same screen, turning every leap into a survival contest or a chaotic co-op disaster. Originally built for real NES hardware and later ported to Steam, Micro Mages proves that technical limits only exist for those afraid to test them. Morphcat didn't just make a game, they rewired nostalgia. Alwa's Awakening 8-bit edition. After surviving the pixel chaos of Micro Mages, you might think you've seen the NES pushed to its breaking point until this one steps in and politely rewrites the rules again. Alwa's Awakening. The 8-bit edition isn't a simple nostalgia act. It's a full re-engineering of Elden Pixel's modern indie classic into something that could have sat proudly on a cartridge in 1990. Built entirely from scratch, this version trades Unity shaders for authentic 6502 assembly code and somehow delivers a sprawling Metroidvania experience that feels tailor-made for a CRT glow. You play as Zoe, a staff-wielding heroine summoned to free the mystical land of Alwa. Her mission unfolds across more than 400 interconnected rooms, each hiding secrets, traps, and shimmering gemstones that power up her magical staff. Every upgrade transforms exploration. You'll levitate over spikes, conjure blocks to climb unreachable ledges, and blast through cursed creatures in labyrinthine dungeons. What I find wild is how much personality the game squeezes from its 8-bit limits. The haunting chip music by Robert Kreese and Professor Sakamoto, the crisp colour palette, and those subtle parallaxed tricks that look way too good for original hardware. Elden Pixels didn't port a game. They time-travelled to prove the NES still had worlds left to build. Haunted Halloween 86. Just when you thought retro horror couldn't get any gnarlier, Haunted Halloween 86 drops you right back into the pixel fog of Possum Hollow. A place where ghosts, reapers, and punk rock fists coexist in true 8-bit chaos. Built from the ground up by Retrotainment Games to run on real NES hardware, this sequel doesn't just look like 1986. It plays like it's been hiding in a time capsule since then. The story picks up with Stephen and Kim, two kids who accidentally get caught in a supernatural replay of the town's cursed Halloween night. Jack the Reaper is back, and he's brought a squad of grotesque new bosses, courtesy of the Spirit Halloween edition. Because apparently, even the Afterlife gets seasonal updates now. Between side-scrolling beat-em-up combat, punchable ghosts, and platforming that punishes hesitation, the game oozes both authenticity and unfiltered fun. What I really admire is how Retrotainment balances chaos and craft. Every sprite, every sound effect, every enemy placement follows NES hardware limits exactly, yet somehow squeezes out smooth animation and multi-layer parallax that feels impossible. Whether you're jamming on a real cartridge or emulating it on PC, Haunted, Halloween 86 is proof that the undead and the NES both refuse to stay buried. Sam's Journey. After the spooky chaos of Haunted, Halloween 86, we need something bright, right? Enter Sam's Journey, Ultimate Edition, a platformer that makes you forget you're still looking at NES pixels. The team at Knights of Bytes basically pulled off a miracle here. Originally a Commodore 64 hit, it finally jumped to NES in 2024 with an update that feels like a celebration of everything 8-bit ever did right. You play as Sam, this plucky adventurer who crash lands in a brand new world and just decides to explore everything he sees: grassy fields, frozen caves, pirate ships, and even mechanical castles. Every zone pops with colour, animation, and more detail than the NES should handle. And the costumes? Total game changers. 1 minute you're swinging on ropes like a pirate, next you're sneaking through tight corridors as a ninja, or skating across ice like it's second nature. What I love most is how open the world feels. There's always another secret path or hidden room waiting if you're curious enough to poke around. Between the slick controls, nearly 2,000 screens of adventure, and smooth hardware tricks, Sam's Journey proves the NES still has new stories to tell. And Knights of Bytes just wrote a classic. Malasombra. And just when you thought the NES had shown every kind of wizard story imaginable, along comes Malasombra. A fresh slice of dark fantasy that feels like a lost 8-bit epic finally getting its debut. Set to drop in 2025, this one's being cooked up by the Spanish retro crew 4 MHz. The same folks known for pushing old-school hardware way beyond what it should be doing. You step into the shoes of Piru, a young apprentice magician whose peaceful life goes up in smoke when his beloved is snatched away by a wicked sorcerer. What follows isn't just a rescue mission. It's a full-blown magical odyssey through forests that shimmer with cursed light, torch-lit catacombs, and towers guarded by creatures that look straight out of a 90s dark fantasy VHS cover. The whole thing runs on genuine NES hardware, yet somehow pulls off atmospheric lighting, multi-layer parallax, and cutscenes that make you forget this console came out in the 80s. I've got to say, the ambition here is insane. The Kickstarter buzz is already huge, and early footage shows smooth swordplay mixed with spell casting, hidden relics, and branching levels. Malasombra looks like the kind of game that'll remind everyone just how cinematic an 8-bit adventure can still feel. if you've got enough imagination and assembly code. Orange Island. From cursed forests to candy-coloured dreams, yeah, this next one is pure mood shift. Orange Island looks like someone bottled childhood nostalgia, added a pinch of melancholy, and poured it straight into an NES cartridge. Solo dev Ted Sturchy has been quietly crafting this pastel-hued adventure for years, and it's finally shaping up to be one of the most emotionally rich homebrew titles ever built for the NES. The story follows 5 playable characters, who each bring their own magic, stats, and backstories to a mysterious island humming with old secrets. Beneath the soft colour palette lies a tale about memory, friendship, and the weight of growing up. A narrative told through cutscenes, dialogue, and quiet moments between exploration. You'll wander through cozy towns, shimmering forests, and crumbling ruins, swapping characters to solve puzzles or unlock new paths in classic Metroidvania fashion. What blows me away is how Orange Island keeps things authentic while still feeling modern. Proper NES limitations. Full chiptune soundtrack, even a legit homebrew cartridge in the works. And that soundtrack? It features legends like Hiroki Kikuta, Soyo Oka, and Lena Raine, a dream lineup for retro music fans. It's wholesome, heartfelt, and quietly ambitious, proof that the NES can still make you feel something new. Super Tilt Bro. Okay, now this one's just straight up wizardry. Imagine telling someone in 1987 that their NES would one day have Wi-Fi and online matchmaking. That's exactly what Sylvain Gadrat's Super Tilt Bro pulls off. A Super Smash Bros. Style brawler that doesn't just play on original hardware, it connects it to the internet. I'm not kidding. The cartridge literally has an ESP8266 Wi-Fi module built in. The NES is basically tweeting in 2025. Gameplay-wise, it's pure couch chaos, distilled into an 8-bit showdown. 2 fighters, both Sinbad clones from the Ogre 3D mascot, duke it out on a single platform, trying to knock each other off the edge in classic Smash fashion. Controls are simple but snappy, built entirely in raw 6502 assembly, which means every punch, jump, and air dodge feels hand-tuned to the hardware. What's wild is the online side. The dev somehow squeezed rollback netcode, the same kind modern fighters use, into just 2 KB of RAM and a 1.5 MHz CPU. The result, lag-free duels over Wi-Fi on a console that predates the internet boom. If all that sounds impossible, that's the point. Super Tilt Bro is proof that the NES is still evolving. Honestly, I can't wait to get destroyed online by someone playing on a 40-year-old machine. Dungeons and DoomKnights. If the NES ever needed its own heavy metal album, Adventure Quest 8-bit, Dungeons and DoomKnights would be it. Developed by Artix Entertainment, this beast somehow stuffs an entire Paladin saga, 3 bonus games, chaos mods, and even fake magazine content into one glorious cartridge. It's the kind of project that feels like it was made by fans who never grew up, and I mean that as the highest compliment. You play as Artix, a young paladin in training who returns home to find his village leveled by an army of the undead. Vampires, leeches, flying eyeballs, death knights, and those ridiculous chicken cows are everywhere. Swearing revenge, he sets off through over 500 screens of overworlds, underworlds, dungeons, and haunted fields. The game's pacing is part Zelda 2, part Castlevania 2, and part pure chaos. You'll solve puzzles, hunt down keys, and trade blows with grotesque bosses that look way too detailed for 8-bit hardware. What I really dig is how self-aware it all is. The developers didn't just make a retro game. They made a parody, tribute, and genuine epic rolled into one. There's a CRT filter, color palettes like Game Child Green, and Chaos Mode modifiers that warp the entire adventure. Dungeons and DoomKnights doesn't just resurrect 8-bit fantasy, it throws a bone to every player who grew up believing the NES could do anything. Full quiet. After slaying DoomKnights and undead armies, you'd think we'd earned a breather, but full quiet doesn't do comfort. Retrotainment games dials things way down and somehow turns the NES into a mood machine. This one's not about high scores or speed runs, it's about tension, loneliness, and that unnerving static that creeps in when the forest starts whispering back. You play a desperate father searching for his missing son in an open-world wilderness where everything feels just slightly wrong. Instead of swords or spells, your lifeline is a ham radio network, a mysterious grid built by Pap and his crew long before you arrived. To progress, you'll have to restore their relay stations, decode signals, and survive the nights as strange creatures close in from the darkness. There's a full day-night cycle, limited resources, and puzzles woven into the environment rather than handed out by NPCs. I really respect how Full Quiet trades NES nostalgia for atmosphere. The visuals use muted tones and layered sound design that somehow build dread without gore or jump scares. It's haunting, patient, and brutally clever about how it guides you through discovery. For a console not built for open-world survival, this one whispers something new through the static. Quiet doesn't mean safe. Choo-Choo Mimic. Who knew feeding knights to a treasure chest could be this fun? In Choo-Choo Mimic, your job is to guide clueless, overly brave knights straight into the mouth of a hungry mimic disguised as a chest. You'll do this by laying down directional tiles, bouncing springs and sturdy boxes, all while avoiding hazards that could ruin your monstrous appetite. Every level becomes a puzzly little playground of trial, timing, and a bit of dark humor. Across 100 creatively cruel levels, you'll meet 4 knights, each with their own quirky personality, and enjoy silly cutscenes that make failure almost worth it. Between the clever puzzle design and the witty banter, it's hard not to smile, or groan at the endless puns. Developed in collaboration between rigged games and low-tech games, this bite-sized adventure packs charm, challenge, and chaos in equal measure. And if you're up for a double helping, the Orc Face release bundle includes this title along with the Storied Sword, all at a tasty discount.
Data Man, a new home arcade action game for the NES. Blast through waves of enemies. Counterattacks from giant spiders. Defend the system at all costs.
Data Man. You'd think after wrangling knights and feeding mimics, we'd be safe from digital doom. But Data Man has other plans. This upcoming NES release dives straight into the circuitry, turning the console itself into a battlefield. Developed by a small but obsessive indie crew, obsessed with late 80s arcade flair, it feels like Tron and Defender had an 8-bit baby that decided to live inside your CPU. You play as the titular Data Man, the last defense against a swarm of corrupted code led by the villainous Master. Every level represents a crumbling subsystem, RAM sectors, power conduits, and pixel pipelines, all overrun by glitchy enemies that spawn in chaotic waves. Your goal? Protect the central processing unit before the clock hits 0 and the system crashes for good. What I find especially cool is how Data Man blends action and tension without breaking NES rules. The screen scrolls with parallax data streams. Explosions flicker in pseudo-vector patterns. And there's even two-player co-op, where one player patches corrupted nodes while the other fends off incoming viruses. It's fast, flashy, and full of arcade energy that feels like a long-lost Konami prototype. When it launches, Data Man might just be the most electrifying way to keep your old console alive. Yeah, Beebiss 2. You know you're deep into NES lore when a sequel drops for a game that technically never existed. The Legend of Beebiss. I takes the strangest urban legend in gaming history, a phantom title that appeared in 80s magazine listings without a trace of screenshots or proof, and finally turns it into something you can actually play. The result is a chaotic, tongue-in-cheek love letter to the entire homebrew scene. You play as Qionshi Hui and Jiangshi Bo, two hopping undead heroes tasked with purging evil across 100 levels of pixel mayhem. Hui blasts enemies with electric zaps, while Bo drains their life force, giving co-op runs a real strategic twist. Each of the 10 themed stages ends in a showdown with the game's big bad. A writhing, mutated blob of pure evil that looks like it escaped from a corrupted Famicom cartridge. What I really love here is how it embraces the myth it's built on. The devs packed it with playful Easter eggs, chiptune tracks that sound like lost arcade riffs, and that unmistakable one more go loop you only get from NES-era platformers. Yeah, Beebiss I doesn't just resurrect a rumor, it redeems it in glorious 8-bit form.
Grimy little hands on the most disgusting game ever made. Garbage Pail Kids, Mad Mike, and the quest for stale gum. Defeat dweebs with diaper-enhanced butt slams. Axe and ooze your way across the globe to recover.
Garbage Pail Kids, Mad Mike, and the quest for stale gum. Just when you thought the NES couldn't get any grosser, in the best possible way, Garbage Pail Kids, Mad Mike, and the quest for stale gum crawls out of the time capsule. This is the 80s fever dream that somehow never happened. Trading card chaos meets pixelated platforming, built by Retrotainment Games and lovingly resurrected by I Am 8-Bit and Tops. It's a game that shouldn't exist, but absolutely had to. You'll take control of 4 disgustingly heroic weirdos: Mad Mike, Leaky Lindsay, Patty Putty, and Clogged Dwayne, as they travel across 6 bizarre worlds in search of, you guessed it, stale gum. Each level oozes with the kind of irreverent humor that made Garbage Pail Kids infamous. Pixelated puke, booger attacks, explosive diapers, yeah, it's all here. But underneath the goof, there's a surprisingly sharp action-adventure structure. Characters swap on the fly, each with unique powers to navigate hazards and battle the nastiest enemies ever drawn on a Trapper Keeper. I'll admit, the nostalgia here hits hard. Between the collectible card gallery, the filthy chiptunes, and an authentic NES cartridge release, this one feels like it teleported straight out of 1987. Mad Mike and the quest for stale gum is more than a lost relic. It's a deliriously faithful mashup of childhood chaos, now playable without Mum yelling about those gross cards. The Adventures of Panzer III. After all the spooky forests, haunted data, and booger-fueled brawls, The Adventures of Panzer III sounds like the NES finally decided to crack a grin again, and then go completely unhinged. This new entry in the long-running Homebrew saga throws you right back into the chaos with Panzer, the perpetually overworked raid leader of the Zergadins, and his band of lovable misfits. It's action, comedy, and pure 8-bit swagger rolled into one wild cartridge. Set 3 years after the first game, Panzer's back on a mission that somehow combines saving the world with fixing his team's endless screw-ups. And what a crew it is! Hunter Kankaro and his precision bow, Azriaz freezing everything in sight, Vespito turning every level into a fireworks test zone, and Kalindril, the assassin who doesn't say much but makes every hit count. Add Monkley, the shaman brain of the group, D-Muscles with his flamethrower, and caffeine-fueled Saria, and you've got more personality than Pixels can usually handle. What I love is how Panzer III breaks the usual NES rhythm. You can swap between heroes in real time, explore non-linear stages, and hit up Pugner's revamped shop to grab upgrades. Gotta Protector's Amazon's Running Diet. And just when you thought the NES couldn't get any stranger, along sprints Amazon's Running Diet, a tongue-in-cheek spin-off from Gotta Protectors that somehow turns fitness, hunger, and chaos into an 8-bit endurance test. Built by the same devs who gave us that cult RPG parody, this one stars the pink-haired Amazon, only let's say she's seen better training days. The premise is absurd in the most delightful way. You're literally running through endless forests, trying to stay hydrated while dodging every delicious temptation the world can throw at you. Water bottles keep you alive, but cakes, those pixel-perfect frosting-covered devils, drain your stamina and, well, inflate your stats in hilarious ways. The goal? Keep moving until dehydration or dessert claims you. What I really enjoy about it is how self-aware it feels. The chiptune soundtrack keeps pace with your panic, the animations are goofy but sharp, and there's just enough strategy hiding under the silliness, deciding when to grab water or risk a sugar boost, to keep you hooked. It's ridiculous, nostalgic, and perfectly balanced between parody and genuine challenge. Amazon's Running Diet may sound like a joke, but it's exactly the kind of oddball creativity that proves the NES homebrew scene still has zero chill and infinite charm. Changeable Guardian Estique. From haunted forests to sugary endurance runs, the NES now blasts straight into sci-fi territory with Changeable Guardian Estique. A full-throttle, transforming mech shooter that feels ripped right out of a late 80s anime marathon. Set in 2041-30, Earth's under siege by the intergalactic space pirates known as the Van der Roos, who've hijacked the planet's 5 major financial hubs. Humanity's last hope? A transforming war machine called Estique, sent from the allied planet Betelgeuse and piloted by the fearless duo Mary and Kanan. Gameplay moves at a blistering pace across 6 city-based stages, letting you swap between jet mode and mech mode on the fly. Jet form offers agility and a tight hitbox, while the towering mech form trades maneuverability for tank-like endurance and faster health regeneration. Each form also comes with its own devastating special attack, which automatically triggers when your energy stock is full. A subtle but smart twist on traditional shmup pacing. Weapon icons switch your loadout between a widespread blaster and the BIT system, a rotating satellite that blocks enemy shots while firing in sync. With 3 difficulty tiers and some of the cleanest sprite work ever squeezed into an NES ROM, Changeable Guardian Estique nails that sweet spot between arcade flash and 8-bit discipline. Honestly, it looks and plays like it time-traveled from a 1990 Capcom prototype lab. If anyone ever tells you the NES era is over, show them this lineup. These creators aren't chasing nostalgia. They're rewriting what's possible on ancient silicon, proving passion beats polygons every single time. Whether it's sweeping, story-driven quests, flashy brawlers, or surreal platformers, each of these homebrews turns 8-bit limits into art. The console may be vintage, but the creativity is timeless. So yeah, the NES didn't just survive. It evolved. And it's never looked better doing it.
You're not just playing a game, you're inside a game. The Master and his evil minions have invaded your system. Face him alone or with a friend. This is the challenge you've